I was having dinner with my father-in-law when my wife walked through the front door, expecting to find me alone and unsuspecting. Instead, she found me sitting across from her dad, sharing a meal and conversation. The look on her face was priceless. I smirked and delivered the line I'd been rehearsing all afternoon. That was fast. Done with him already. Her father blinked in confusion and asked, "What tax papers? Done with who?" Let me back up a week. My world shifted when my friend caught me after work and pulled me aside. She looked uncomfortable, almost sick to her stomach, as she told me she'd seen my wife kissing another man outside the real estate office where she works. Not a friendly peck on the cheek. A real kiss. A goodbye kiss between lovers. The kind that happens when someone thinks nobody's watching. I didn't want to believe it. My first instinct was to defend her, to find some innocent explanation. But as the hours passed, pieces started falling into place. The late nights showing properties. The increased attention to her appearance. The way she'd become protective of her phone. Most disturbing of all was how I suddenly couldn't stand her touch. The thought of kissing her made my stomach turn. Even her scent seemed different, foreign. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention, really listening to her excuses, watching her body language when she lied. And she was lying, constantly, about where she'd been, who she'd talked to, why she was late. The woman I'd married had become a stranger and not a particularly good liar. She must have sensed my change in behavior because she started being more careful, more elaborate with her stories. That's when she texted me about helping her dad with tax documents. It was Tuesday afternoon, and she said she'd be home late. Something about the message felt off. Her dad is meticulous about his finances and handles everything himself. Plus, it's not even tax season. I decided to test her story. I drove straight to her father's house, a modest ranch about 20 minutes away. His car was in the driveway, but there was no sign of my wife. No extra car. Nothing. I knocked on the door, and he answered with genuine surprise. "Hey there. What brings you by? Come in, come in." I looked around the living room. No papers spread out on the table. No calculator or documents anywhere in sight. He was just watching the evening news and seemed completely relaxed. "Just thought I'd stop by and see how you're doing," I said, keeping my voice casual. "Haven't seen you in a while." He smiled warmly. This man had always treated me like the son he never had. He genuinely loved spending time with us, and the feeling was mutual, which made what I was about to discover even more painful. "I'm doing great. Was just thinking about calling you too. Haven't had a good meal with my favorite daughter and son-in-law in too long." That's when the idea hit me. "You know what? Why don't you come over for dinner tonight? I was planning to cook anyway." His face lit up. "That sounds wonderful. Let me grab my jacket." The drive back to my house gave me time to think. If she was really helping him with tax papers, she'd call to check on his progress. She'd mention our dinner plans. But my phone stayed silent. No calls, no texts asking how he was doing or if he needed anything else. I spent the afternoon preparing a nice meal. Nothing fancy, just the kind of home cooking he enjoyed. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, mashed potatoes. Comfort food that would make the evening feel normal and peaceful. Right up until it wouldn't be. Around 6:30, we sat down to eat. He was telling me about his garden plans for spring when we heard her car in the driveway. The garage door opened and closed. Her heels clicked across the kitchen floor, and then she appeared in the dining room doorway. The color drained from her face. Her mouth opened, then closed, like a fish gasping for air. She stood frozen, still holding her purse and keys, clearly trying to process what she was seeing. "Hi, sweetheart," I said calmly, cutting another piece of chicken. "How did the tax preparation go?" She managed a weak smile. "Oh, it went fine. Hi, Dad. I didn't expect to see you here." Her father looked confused. "Tax preparation? What are you talking about, honey?" That's when I delivered the line that had been building inside me all afternoon. That was fast. Done with him already. The silence that followed was deafening. Her father's confusion deepened, and he looked between us with growing concern. "What tax papers? Done with who?" My wife's face went from pale to flushed in seconds. Sweat beaded on her forehead, and I could see her mind racing, desperately trying to construct some explanation that would make sense. But there wasn't one. She'd been caught in a lie so obvious, so easily disproven, that even the most creative excuse wouldn't save her. I mean, "Dad, didn't you call me about?" She looked at her father helplessly. He shook his head slowly. "I haven't talked to you in 3 days, sweetheart, and I certainly didn't ask for help with any tax papers. I finished those weeks ago. The trap was perfect, clean, undeniable. And the best part was that I didn't have to be the bad guy. I didn't have to accuse her of anything. Her own lies had caught her, right in front of the one person whose opinion mattered most to her. Her father, who had raised her after her mother passed away, who had always been proud of the woman she'd become, was now looking at her with growing disappointment and confusion. She tried to say something, but nothing came out. The weight of the moment was crushing her, and she knew it. This wasn't just about getting caught in a lie anymore. This was about everything that lie was meant to hide. And now, sitting at our dinner table, with her father as an unwitting witness, the truth was about to come out. My wife stood there sweating, her voice cracking as she scrambled for an explanation that wouldn't come. The silence stretched uncomfortably while her father waited for an answer that made sense. Maybe I misunderstood, she finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Maybe Dad mentioned something about paperwork, and I thought. No, honey, her father interrupted gently but firmly. I haven't mentioned any paperwork to you. Haven't needed help with anything like that. She tried a different approach, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow and desperate. Oh, you know me. Always getting my wires crossed. I must have stopped by your house earlier, and you weren't home, so I just went shopping instead. I set down my fork and looked at her directly. That's interesting. What time did you stop by his house? Her eyes darted between her father and me. Around, 3? Maybe 4. Her father frowned. I've been home all afternoon. Haven't left the house since this morning. The sweat on her forehead was more noticeable now. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, still clutching her purse like a shield. Maybe you were in the backyard? Or taking a nap? Honey, my hearing isn't that bad. If you'd knocked or rung the doorbell, I would have heard you. He was starting to sound concerned, not just confused. Are you feeling all right? You seem upset. That's when she made her biggest mistake. She pulled out her phone and said, "Let me call you, Dad." Maybe there was some confusion about timing. She dialed his number, and we all sat there listening to nothing. No ringing. No connection. Her father reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. "Dead battery," he said, showing us the blank screen. "Been dead since yesterday. I keep forgetting to charge the thing." The look of pure panic that crossed her face was something I'll never forget. She'd been counting on calling him to somehow validate her story, maybe hoping he'd play along out of confusion or politeness. But a dead phone meant she couldn't even attempt that desperate move. "Well, that explains it," she said quickly, too quickly. "Your phone was dead, so when I came by, I couldn't reach you to let you know I was there." I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the show. "So you drove all the way to your dad's house, found he wasn't available, and then decided to, what exactly? Go shopping for 5 hours. I had errands to run. You know how it is." "What kind of errands?" Her mouth opened and closed again. She was drowning, and we both knew it. "Just grocery shopping. And I stopped by the mall." "Did you buy anything?" She looked down at her empty hands, then back at her purse. "No, nothing caught my eye." Her father was watching this exchange with growing alarm. The man who had raised 3 daughters alone knew when one of them was lying. He'd seen this same stammering, this same avoidance of eye contact, when they were teenagers trying to explain why they'd missed curfew. "Sweetheart," he said softly, "what's really going on here? You're acting strange, and this story isn't making sense." That's when I decided to drop the hammer. I turned to her father and said, "She texted me about helping you with tax papers because she needed an excuse to be late tonight." The question is, where was she really? Her father's expression changed. The confusion was replaced by something harder, more serious. He looked at his daughter with the same stern gaze that had probably gotten confessions out of her when she was 16. "Is that true? Did you lie about helping me?" She started crying then. Not the gentle tears of someone who was sorry, but the ugly, desperate crying of someone who'd been caught and knew it. "Daddy, it's not what you think. I can explain everything." "Then explain it," I said calmly. "Start with where you actually were for the past 6 hours." I had to handle some things. Personal things. What kind of personal things require lying to your husband and using your father as an alibi? She couldn't answer. She stood there sobbing, mascara running down her cheeks, looking between her father and me like a cornered animal. Every second of silence made the truth more obvious. Her father stood up slowly. "I think I should go." "No," I said firmly. "I think you should stay. Your daughter has been using you to cover her tracks, and you deserve to know what she's been covering up." He sat back down, his face grave. He looked older suddenly, worn down by the realization that his daughter had involved him in deception without his knowledge. "Please," she whispered. "Can we talk about this privately?" "We are talking privately," I replied. "This is our home, and your father is family. If you have something to say it now." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing her makeup even more. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under. The stress at work, the way you've been treating me lately." "How have I been treating you lately?" "Cold. Distant. Like you don't want to be around me." I almost laughed. "And when did this cold treatment start?" "About a week ago. You stopped kissing me goodbye. You barely talk to me. You act like I disgust you." Her father was listening intently now, trying to piece together what had caused this sudden change in our marriage. "Maybe," I said slowly, "I started acting differently because I found out something that changed how I see you." The room went completely silent. She stopped crying, stopped moving, stopped breathing for a moment. Her father leaned forward slightly, sensing that we were finally approaching the truth. "What did you find out?" she whispered. I looked her straight in the eyes. "That you've been kissing other men." The reaction was immediate and telling. Instead of shock, instead of denial, instead of outrage at such an accusation, she just closed her eyes and slumped against the doorframe like all the fight had gone out of her. Her father's sharp intake of breath broke the silence. "What?" Her father's what hung in the air like a thunderclap. He stared at his daughter, waiting for her to deny it, to laugh it off, to do something other than stand there looking defeated. Instead, she opened her eyes and said the worst possible thing. "It's not what you think." Not a denial, not outrage at being falsely accused. Just, "It's not what you think." Her father's face crumpled with disappointment. "Then tell me what it is," I said, my voice steady and controlled. "Because what I think is that you've been cheating on me and lying about it." She pushed herself off the doorframe and took a shaky step into the room. It wasn't supposed to happen. Things got complicated. "Complicated how?" her father asked, his voice barely controlled. "You're married. How complicated can it be?" She looked at him with desperate eyes. "Daddy, you don't understand. Things haven't been good between us for a while. I felt lonely, disconnected." "So you decided to connect with someone else?" I interrupted. "While wearing your wedding ring and coming home to me every night." "It wasn't like that. He's just a colleague. Someone who understood what I was going through at work. We talked, and over time you started kissing him in parking lots." I finished. "How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, calculating how much truth she could get away with. "A few weeks. Maybe a month. Try again. 2 months. But nothing serious happened. Just talking mostly." I turned to her father. She was seen kissing him outside her office last week. This wasn't talking. This wasn't emotional support. This was a physical affair. Her father looked like he'd been slapped. "Is that true?" She nodded miserably. "But it was just one kiss. A goodbye kiss. He's being transferred to another office, and I was saying goodbye." The lies kept coming, each one smaller and more pathetic than the last. I could see her father processing this information, watching his daughter transform from the person he thought he knew into someone he didn't recognize. "Who saw you?" she asked suddenly. "Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters. Because if someone saw us, they might have misunderstood what they were seeing." I shook my head. There's no misunderstanding a kiss between two adults in a parking lot. There's no innocent explanation for why a married woman would be in another man's arms. Her father stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I can't believe what I'm hearing. Your mother raised you better than this." That hit her hard. Bringing up her mother always did. "Don't bring Mom into this. She's already in this," he said, his voice rising. "Every choice you make reflects on how she raised you, how I raised you. And this is not who we raised you to be. I made a mistake, okay? People make mistakes." "Mistakes?" I laughed bitterly. "A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk on the way home. This was a choice. Multiple choices. You chose to get close to this man. You chose to cross boundaries. You chose to kiss him. And you chose to lie to me about where you were tonight so you could see him again." Her face went white. "I wasn't seeing him tonight." "Then where were you?" "I told you. I was running errands." "Stop lying," her father exploded. "Just stop lying. You've lied enough for one night." The outburst shocked all of us. Her father was the gentlest man I knew, slow to anger and quick to forgive. But his patience had reached its limit. "Daddy, please." "No. I'm done with please. I'm done with excuses. You're a grown woman, married to a good man who loves you, and you threw it away for what? Some excitement? Some attention? You don't understand how hard it's been. Hard. I stood up now, my own anger finally breaking through. Marriage is hard for everyone. You think I haven't had opportunities? You think I haven't met women who were interesting, attractive, available? But I made a commitment to you. I honored my vows. I know, but there is no but. There's right and there's wrong. There's faithful and there's unfaithful. There's honest and there's what you've been doing. Her father was shaking his head slowly. I don't even know who you are anymore. The daughter I raised would never have done this. People change, Dad. Yes, they do. And you've changed into someone I don't recognize. Someone who lies to her family, cheats on her husband, and then makes excuses instead of taking responsibility. The weight of his disappointment was crushing her. I could see it in the way her shoulders sagged, the way she seemed to shrink into herself. Her father's opinion had always mattered more to her than anyone else's. Losing his respect was devastating. What do you want me to say? She whispered. I want you to tell the truth, I said. All of it. No more lies, no more half-truths, no more minimizing. What really happened between you and this man? She looked at the floor. We started talking about work. He was having problems with his manager, and I was having issues with some difficult clients. We'd grab coffee after work sometimes, just to vent. When did it become more than venting? About 6 weeks ago. He was going through a divorce, and I was feeling disconnected from you. We were both vulnerable. So you decided to be vulnerable together. It wasn't planned. One evening, we were talking in his car, and he kissed me. I should have stopped it, but I didn't. And it continued from there. Yes. Her father's voice was barely audible. How could you do this to him? He treats you like a queen. He works hard, provides for you, loves you unconditionally, and you repay him by sneaking around with another man. I know it was wrong. Wrong doesn't begin to cover it, I said. This isn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This is a pattern of deception that's been going on for weeks. Every day you came home to me, kissed me, told me you loved me. You were lying. She finally looked up at me, and I saw something that surprised me. Relief. Like she was tired of carrying the weight of her secrets. You're right, she said quietly. I've been lying to you. About where I was, who I was with, what I was doing. And I'm tired of lying. It was the first honest thing she'd said all night. Her father sat back down heavily, like the weight of her confession had physically drained him. He stared at his hands for a long moment before looking up at her with eyes full of pain. So it's true. My daughter is an adulteress. The word hit her like a physical blow. Daddy, don't say it like that. What should I call it? What's the nice word for a married woman who kisses other men and lies to her husband about it? She had no answer for that. Neither did I, frankly. Her father had cut straight to the heart of it with brutal honesty. How long were you planning to keep this going? I asked. Until he finished his divorce? Until you decided you wanted him more than me? Or were you just going to keep both of us hanging on indefinitely? I don't know. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. You weren't thinking at all, her father said bitterly. You were being selfish, pure and simple. I was confused. My marriage felt stale, and he made me feel alive again. Your marriage felt stale? I couldn't keep the incredulity out of my voice. We've been together for 4 years. We own a home together. We've talked about starting a family. And you threw all of that away because you were bored. Not bored. Disconnected. Did you try talking to me about feeling disconnected? Did you suggest counseling? Did you make any effort to fix what was wrong before you decided to find someone else? She opened her mouth, then closed it. We both knew the answer. Her father leaned forward. You know what your mother would say if she were here? Dad, please don't. She'd say that marriage isn't about feeling alive every single day. It's about commitment. It's about working through the hard times instead of running away when things get difficult. Mom's been gone for 8 years. Things are different now. Right and wrong haven't changed, he said firmly. The values she taught you haven't changed. You've just chosen to ignore them. I watched this exchange with fascination. Her father was destroying her justifications more effectively than I ever could. Coming from him, these words carried the weight of a lifetime of love and guidance. I made a mistake, she said again, the phrase becoming meaningless through repetition. No, I said, you made dozens of mistakes. Every time you met him, every time you lied to me, every time you came home and pretended everything was normal. Those weren't accidents. They were choices. Her father nodded grimly. And now you have to live with the consequences of those choices. What consequences? She asked, and I realized she still didn't understand the gravity of what she'd done. Well, for starters, your marriage is over, I said matter-of-factly. That got her attention. What? No, we can work through this. Couples recover from affairs all the time. Couples where both people want to save the marriage, maybe. But I don't. She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. You don't mean that. I absolutely mean it. The woman I married wouldn't have done what you've done. The woman I married respected me, respected our vows, respected herself. You're not that woman anymore. People change. I can change back. Can you? Can you undo the past 6 weeks? Can you unkiss him? Can you take back all the lies you've told me? Her father was watching our exchange with sad resignation. He's right, sweetheart. Some things can't be undone. So that's it. You're just going to give up on us. There was panic in her voice now. I'm not giving up on anything. You already gave up. You gave up the day you decided another man was more important than your marriage. He wasn't more important. It wasn't about importance. Then what was it about? She struggled for words. It was about feeling wanted, feeling special, feeling like someone cared about what I had to say. I cared about what you had to say. I always cared. But apparently my caring wasn't enough, or wasn't the right kind, or wasn't exciting enough. Her father shook his head. Do you hear yourself? You're blaming him for your affair. You're making yourself the victim in a situation where you were the one who betrayed your vows. I'm not making myself the victim. I'm trying to explain why it happened. Why doesn't matter, I said. How does it matter? The only thing that matters is that it did happen, and now we have to deal with the consequences. The consequences don't have to include divorce. Yes, they do, because I can't trust you anymore. I can't look at you without wondering where you've really been. I can't kiss you without thinking about who else you've been kissing. I can't share a bed with you without feeling sick to my stomach. That last part hit her hard. She hadn't realized how deeply her betrayal had affected me physically, emotionally. I can earn your trust back. How? By promising never to do it again. By going to counseling? By being extra nice for a few months until I let my guard down. Yes, whatever it takes. What it would take is a time machine. And since that doesn't exist, we're done. Her father stood up again. I think I really should go now. This isn't my place anymore. It is your place, I told him. Your family. You're welcome here anytime. But she's not welcome here anymore. The finality of that statement seemed to register with both of them. Her father looked at his daughter with a mixture of love and disappointment that was heartbreaking to witness. Where will I go? She asked quietly. Call your sisters. Go to a hotel. Figure it out. But you're not sleeping in my house tonight. Our house. My house. I've been making the mortgage payments while you've been making out with your colleague. Her father winced at my bluntness, but he didn't contradict me. He walked over to his daughter and put his hands on her shoulders. I love you, he said quietly. I'll always love you. But I'm ashamed of what you've done, and I'm disappointed in the person you've become. You need to think long and hard about who you want to be going forward. He kissed her forehead, then turned to me. I'm sorry this happened to you. You deserved better. Thank you for saying that. It's the truth. You've been a good husband to her and a good son to me. That doesn't change just because she made bad choices. As he headed for the door, she called after him. Daddy, wait. You're just going to leave me here. He turned back, and for the first time all evening, he looked every one of his 68 years. You're not a child anymore. You made adult choices, and now you have to face adult consequences. Your husband is right to ask you to leave. If you were my son-in-law and someone had treated you this way, I'd tell you the same thing. And with that, he walked out, leaving her alone with me and the wreckage of her marriage. As her father reached the door, I called after him. Let me give you a ride home. He turned back and shook his head firmly. No, thank you. I'll call a taxi. I need some time to think about all this. He pulled out his phone, realized it was still dead, and sighed. Actually, I'll just walk to the corner and call from the gas station. I need the fresh air anyway. After he left, the house fell into complete silence. She stood there staring at the front door like she expected him to come back and rescue her from this situation. But he wasn't coming back, and there was no rescue coming. You can't seriously expect me to leave tonight, she said finally, turning back to face me. I absolutely expect you to leave tonight. In fact, I insist on it. This is my home too. This stopped being your home the moment you decided to build a relationship with another man. You want to be with him? Go be with him. I don't want to be with him. I want to be with you. Too bad. That option is off the table. She moved closer, and I instinctively stepped back. The thought of her touching me made my skin crawl. Don't do this. Please. We can get through this together. We're not getting through anything together. There is no we anymore. There's you, and there's me, and there's a divorce lawyer who's going to help us divide up what's left of this mess. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. Something you should try sometime. She sat down in one of the dining room chairs, the same chair her father had been sitting in when he learned what kind of person his daughter really was. I'll end it with him. Completely. I'll never see him again. Good for you. That doesn't change anything between us. It changes everything. It means I'm choosing you. You already made your choice. You chose him. Multiple times. For weeks. This isn't you choosing me. This is you trying to avoid consequences. She started crying again, but this time it felt calculated, manipulative. I was confused. I was going through something, and I handled it badly. But it's over now. You're right. It is over. I don't mean the affair. I mean this conversation. This fight. We can move past this. I can't move past this. I won't move past this. You betrayed everything we built together, and you did it without a second thought. That's not true. I thought about it constantly. I felt terrible about what I was doing. But you kept doing it anyway. Feeling bad about betraying me didn't stop you from betraying me. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. What if I go to counseling? What if I figure out why I did this and make sure it never happens again? What if you take responsibility for your actions without trying to fix what can't be fixed? Anything can be fixed if both people want it badly enough. But I don't want it. That's what you're not understanding. I don't want to rebuild trust with someone who destroyed it so easily. I don't want to spend years wondering if you're telling me the truth. I don't want to work on a marriage with someone who threw it away the first time she got bored. I wasn't bored. I was lonely. You were married. If you were lonely, you should have talked to your husband, not found another man to keep you company. She stood up abruptly, anger replacing the tears. You're being stubborn. You're letting your pride get in the way of saving our marriage. My pride? This isn't about pride. This is about self-respect. This is about not allowing someone to treat me like garbage and then expecting me to be grateful for the opportunity to be treated like garbage again in the future. I never treated you like garbage. You absolutely treated me like garbage. You came home to me every night after spending time with him. You let me kiss you, hold you, make love to you, all while you were thinking about someone else. If that's not treating someone like garbage, I don't know what is. That stopped her cold. She hadn't thought about it from that perspective, about how her betrayal had contaminated every intimate moment between us. I wasn't thinking about him when I was with you. You were thinking about him enough to keep seeing him. You were thinking about him enough to lie to me so you could spend time with him. You were thinking about him enough to risk everything we had together. It wasn't supposed to go that far, but it did go that far. And now here we are. She tried a different approach, moving closer again. What about all the good times we've had? What about our history together? What about the plans we made? What about them? Do you think happy memories erase betrayal? Do you think 4 years of marriage gives you the right to cheat and lie with impunity? No, but it should count for something. It does count for something. It makes what you did even worse. If we'd been strangers, if we'd been dating for a few weeks, maybe this would be understandable. But we're married. We made vows. We built a life together. And you threw it all away for what? A few exciting conversations with a man going through a divorce. You make it sound so trivial. It was trivial. That's the worst part. You didn't destroy our marriage for true love or a deep connection. You destroyed it for attention and validation from someone you barely knew. She slumped back into the chair, finally beginning to understand the magnitude of what she'd lost. So that's it. For years together, and you're just done? I'm not done. You were done weeks ago when you decided kissing another man was more important than respecting your husband. I never said he was more important. You didn't have to say it. You showed it. Every time you chose to see him instead of coming home to me. Every time you lied about where you were. Every time you put his feelings and your feelings ahead of mine. The silence stretched between us. She was finally starting to grasp that no amount of pleading or promising or crying was going to change my mind. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now you pack a bag and leave. Tomorrow you can come back when I'm at work and get whatever else you need. After that, we communicate through lawyers. Where am I supposed to go? Call your sisters. Go to a hotel. Go to his place. I honestly don't care. He's married. He's getting divorced, remember? Maybe you can help each other through your respective breakups. She flinched at that. You're being cruel again. I'm being practical. You wanted to explore a relationship with him. Now you're free to do that without lying to anyone about it. I don't want a relationship with him. I want my marriage back. Your marriage is over. It ended the moment you kissed him. Everything since then has just been me figuring out what you'd already decided. She stood up slowly, defeat written across her face. I'll pack a bag. Good idea. As she headed upstairs, I started clearing the dinner table. Her father and I had been having such a pleasant meal before she arrived. Now the food was cold, the evening was ruined, and everything was different. 20 minutes later, she came back downstairs with a suitcase and her car keys. I'll call you tomorrow. Don't. Have your lawyer call my lawyer. I don't have a lawyer. Then you'd better get one. She stood at the front door, looking back at me one more time. This isn't how I wanted things to end. This isn't how I wanted things to end either. But you made choices that led us here, and now we both have to live with them. I love you. No, you don't. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done what you did. What you feel is regret, guilt, and fear of being alone. But it's not love. And with that, she walked out of my house and out of my life. 6 months later, I was having dinner with my former father-in-law again. Same restaurant we'd gone to for years, same corner booth, but everything was different now. How's the new place treating you? He asked, cutting into his steak. Good. Really good, actually. Smaller than the house, but it's mine. No shared history, no bad memories. He nodded approvingly. Sometimes starting fresh is exactly what you need. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. Our relationship had actually grown stronger since the divorce. Without her drama and lies between us, we could just be two men who genuinely enjoyed each other's company. She called me last week, he said eventually. How's she doing? Not well. The thing with that man fell apart within a month. Turns out he wasn't as interested in a serious relationship as she thought. I wasn't surprised. Men who pursue married women aren't usually looking for commitment. She's been asking about you, wanting to know if you ever mention her, if you seem lonely, if you're dating anyone. What do you tell her? I tell her it's none of her business, that she made her choices and now she has to live with them. He took a sip of his beer. She's been staying with her sister, but that's not going well either. Apparently, she's become bitter, angry at everyone else for her problems. That sounds about right. Her sisters are fed up with her. They supported her at first, thought maybe you were being too harsh. But after listening to her blame everyone but herself for months, they're starting to see what really happened. I wasn't vindictive enough to feel satisfied by her struggles, but I wasn't sympathetic either. She'd created this situation. She asked if I thought you'd ever take her back. What did you tell her? I told her that a smart man doesn't put his hand back in a fire after he's been burned. That made me smile. That's good advice. I learned it from experience. Your mother-in-law wasn't perfect either, but she never betrayed me. That's a line you don't cross. How do you feel about all this? Honestly, he set down his fork and looked at me directly. I'm proud of you. You handled an impossible situation with dignity. You didn't get vengeful. You didn't drag her through the mud publicly. You just protected yourself and moved on. I'm proud of you too. Supporting me couldn't have been easy. It was the easiest thing in the world. You were wronged, and she was wrong. Blood doesn't change that. The waitress refilled our drinks. After she left, he leaned forward slightly. I have something to tell you. Her sisters and I have been talking. We want you to know that you're still family to us. What she did doesn't change how we feel about you. That means everything to me. Good. Because I'd hate to lose the best son-in-law I ever had just because my daughter made terrible choices. We finished our meal talking about work, sports, his garden plans for spring. Normal conversation between two men who respected each other. As we got ready to leave, he put his hand on my shoulder. You know she's hoping you'll reach out eventually, that you'll miss her enough to give her another chance. What do you think the odds of that are? 0. And I'm glad. You deserve someone who understands what loyalty means. Walking to our cars, I reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, I'd been married to a woman who lied to my face daily. Now I was free, honest relationships with people who actually cared about me, and a clear conscience. She'd gambled our marriage on the excitement of an affair and lost everything. I'd been forced to start over, but I'd gained something valuable, the knowledge that I could trust my instincts and protect myself when necessary. Her father was right. I deserved someone who understood what loyalty meant. And someday, when I was ready, I'd find that person. But today, I was content being alone and honest rather than married and deceived. It was a good trade.